is, of course, Larken Rose, author of The Iron Web. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment with a lot more. Welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Adventures in Legal Land. Of course, my website, which is run and maintained basically by Kurt Tischer, who is guest hosting with me today at kurttischer.net, and the website is markstevens.net. Our guest today, of course, the author of The Iron Web, Larken Rose. Welcome back. Why don't you give some of your contact information before we jump back into this, Larken?
Okay, all my stuff, rantings, books, and other stuff can be found at larkenrose.com. That's LARKENROSE.com. And there's lots of things I've written there for free, and it also has the 3 books now, The Iron Web and How to Be a Successful Tyrant, which was fun, and the one about my adventures with the IRS and the courts called Kicking the Dragon. That's currently out of print, but we hope to change that soon. I don't know if we actually will, but we're trying to.
Well, great. Yeah, I want to, while you mentioned that, I am currently backordered on Adventures in Legal Land. I'm hoping to have a new shipment in today, so I want to thank everyone for keeping that continually backordered. I do appreciate that. I also want to mention, before we get back in, I think the word you used, Larken, the other day was hate fest that we were going to have on the show today.
Right.
So before we get back into the hate fest, I just want to mention that I will be joining Christy again on Truth Brigade on Monday night on here on American Freedom Radio, AmericanFreedomRadio.com. That's Monday, May 17th. So we're going to be talking, of course, more about court procedure. So definitely join me on Truth Brigade Monday, May 17th, right here on American Freedom Radio. And I want to get back. I want to get back into this. What we were talking about before the break, Larken, and it's this complete disconnect that people seem to have, and that they're relieving themselves of responsibility because they blame it on the boogeyman, which we'll call government. And it's a widespread kind of thing. And what reminded me, before we went to the break, what you reminded me of was that one audio that has gone viral and from last year about the Obama box, the Obama money, where the woman was in Detroit was asked about why she was in line, and she said, "I'm here for the Obama money." Well, where does he get it? I don't know. In his stash. So it's not just the people in that are government, because government, of course, is just men and women. It is Obama, and all the way down to the door catcher. They are government. But this divorce from reality is not just with them; it's with their victims also.
Right. And actually, the whole, I jokingly call it hate speech. The way that term is used, it's such an obvious symptom of the delusions of statists, because they're out there basically advocating that people calling themselves government forcibly steal my money for whatever they want it spent on, whether it's the military or schools or welfare or whatever it is. And then when people say, I don't think government should steal my money, that gets called extremist, terrorist hate speech. Like, and I know a lot of people who consider themselves like loving and caring and compassionate and very tolerant and open, but of course they're statists, which means they advocate the robbery of everybody they know. And I point out, you're advocating the robbery of everyone you know, including me in particular. You advocate that people in government demand money from me, and if I don't pay up, they come and take it, or they put me in a cage, or they do nasty things to me. And when I turn around and say, that's bad, that should be resisted, it's immoral, that is what gets called extremist and hate speech, because these people really can't comprehend the most obvious, self-evident truth of what government is, which is violence. They're there asking the government to commit violence, and then when I say, hey, that's bad, they say, oh, you're a violent extremist. No, you idiot. Right. You started it.
That's like...
But they can't see it.
Yeah, something like that happened to me on Constitution Day. In a whole little... It's a really long thread on one of my Facebook posts where, it was Constitution Day, and of course I was posting things like Larken's I'm allowed to rob you, and some other stuff like Lysander Spooner's Constitution of No Authority and all of that good stuff, right? And some guy jumped in and he was like, stop bashing the country. I'm like, oh, how am I bashing the country? I'm just a piece of paper, right? That's the thing that set him off. It's just a piece of paper. And it turned into, it finally led up to, to Marc's, famous question, should a product or service be provided at the barrel of a gun? And this guy actually answered yes. And I said, well, I think it's time for me to do a little Christmas cleaning or whatever. It's getting close, some cleaning up on my friends list, right? So I dropped him. I don't need violent, crazy people on my friends list, right? And he sent another friend request right back. It was funny. Are you really going to be like that? I'm like, wait a minute. You're the one who advocated putting a gun in my face to get something that you want. What are you talking about?
You're the psycho.
Right. He couldn't grasp it. And then finally, one of his other friends dropped me. He's like, this is about friendship. I'm like, I agree, because a real friend wouldn't put a gun in your face to get something that he wants. Even a stranger, unless he's a friggin' lunatic,
Yeah, I had someone drop me from Facebook because she had mentioned that she would basically pull the eyes out of a terrorist suspect and enjoy it. So I came back with, oh, so you're not only violent, but you're a sadist to boot. Real nice. So here they're dropping me. I've had Republicans, and you can always get Republicans to drop you when you say things like you don't support the truth.
Right. And I've so far refused to be on Facebook. And lots of the time I'm completely antisocial in that I won't go visit people and stuff because almost everybody advocates that I be robbed. And I spent a year in prison because of what they advocate, which is the government should steal everybody's money, even whether they owe it or not, and hurt the people who resist. And I just sort of refuse to sort of nicely pretend. It's like if your neighbor breaks into your house every other week, beats you up and steals your stuff. But he only does that every other Saturday. So in between, you can just be all friendly with him. It doesn't work that way.
No, and I just want to point out that you're not the one being antisocial. They are. You're just being unsocial. So there's a big difference.
Right.
They're the antisocial ones. We can talk about that in the next segment. My name is Marc Stevens. Kurt Tischer and I. Our guest today is Larken Rose, the author of The Iron Web, and I want to talk more too about how to be a successful tyrant because there's some very relevant points in there that I want to get to. So don't go away. We'll be back right here on American Freedom Radio on the No State Project.
Come on!